Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classics as Non-Classics. This is episode number 1180 and Doubleshot number 1074. I have two solo superhero trades. First up is from DC Comics. We have the Pendulum trade that collects issues from this volume of the series, Green Arrow, Volume 7, Citizen's Arrest. This collects issues of Green Arrow, Volume 6, issues 43 to 47 in number 2. Now, this is written by Julia and Shauna Benson, the writers of Batgirl and the Birds of Prey series, which, when I initially heard that they were going to take over the series, I'm like, that makes perfect sense. They did a great job writing the character in Batgirl and Birds of Prey, so why not here? And here's a shocker. After they finish the arc with a citizen, which basically this whole arc is about, they leave the series. Why? Because DC wanted to take the character in a different direction. I have no idea why. The trade starts off with the annual. Yes, the second annual the series had. Well, this volume anyways. The annual is a tie-in to No Justice. I'm surprised this annual was not included in the No Justice trade, given the fact it is a No Justice tie-in. It simply put what Green Arrow was up to during the period of time while the superheroes off in space. This is what he was up to. So, Black Canary's gone missing, so he's gone looking for her. And, he hears, he goes, he takes on some criminal, takes on some alien, which he looks like Brainiac's ship. Yeah, this is basically stuff with No Justice. And then he hears, a earpiece, "Hi, pretty bird." And she says, "Different bird of prey. It's Batgirl." Yep. Doing her substitute Oracle role. And she helps Green Arrow search for Black Canary, who's gone missing. So he takes his aeroplane. He says, "Hello, old girl." And she's like, "Who you calling old girl?" And he's like, "No, I'm not calling you that. I'm calling my plane that." Yeah, the aeroplane. Though here it looks different than it does when they show it a little bit later. I was actually quite surprised that they bring this thing back. I mean, here it is, the aeroplane. Yeah, though when they show it a little bit later, at the end of this trade, it looks different. It's great to see this vehicle because here's the thing. When was the last time anybody saw the aeroplane in a Green Arrow comic book? Because if you read this entire volume, the only vehicle Green Arrow has is a motorcycle. Yep, a motorcycle. Even on the comics, well, aside from that one motorcycle, he also has had a car, which the car has not made an appearance in this particular series. Not since Judd Winnick wrote the book. That was the last time anybody saw the Arrow car. Yeah, it's basically because the whole recurring joke related to Green Arrow is that he tends to copy a lot of stuff from Batman. That's a joke about the character, that he's a Batman ripoff, even though he's more ripoff of Robin Hood than he is a Batman. Though he does borrow stuff Batman, like having a sidekick, having a car, a plane, and a motorcycle. The only thing he doesn't have is a boat. Yeah, he doesn't drive a boat. That's the only thing he does not have that Batman has. Batman has a plane, a helicopter, which he doesn't use anymore, he uses in the 60s, a motorcycle, which he very rarely uses, basically a car, plane, boat. These three are the most common things he uses, and occasionally the motorcycle, the Batcycle. But in the case of Green Arrow, just a regular motorcycle. But it's great to see the aeroplane, and he flies it over to the Secret Sanctuary in Happy Harbor, which is the headquarters of the Justice League of America, the book that was written by Steve Orlando. Now, here's something quite interesting, though. This is probably the first appearance since the end of that particular run. And this book explains why the rest of the group is not there. Now, Black Canary, Adam, and Lobo actually are not at this place. Batman was not. He was around both teams, but technically Vixen's part of the team. Yes, and apparently Brainiac knocked out all the members of the group. Now, I get maybe knocking out people like the Ray, that's something, but Killer Frost, I think it was Aztec. Yeah, Aztec in the Steve Orlando run was a woman. And so it's like, okay, Who's the best person to help us find out what happened to Black Canary? Amanda Waller. Yep, so Green Arrow takes his plane, and of course he kind of crashes, though he does get a new one later. He runs to the Waller, and pretty much he explains what's been going on, and of course also during this issue, at the end of it, then we have a jump ahead days later, where Martian Manhunter gives Green Arrow a box that could destroy the Justice League. A box that apparently gets ignored up until the final issue. The Citizen storyline is, simply put, kind of a sort of a cheaper of a Batman storyline, because it sounds so similar to a Batman thing, like basically a mass vigilante wanting to, let's say, ruin the good name of, let's say, a Playboy billionaire, and kidnaps random people, tortures them, puts on TV. Sounds a lot like something that a Batman villain would do. And they do mention his recent acquittal of the murder of Winnie Pooh, because he never actually committed the murder. But the other person definitely did. And it was during his days when he was basically not exactly the right place. He was basically drinking heavy, but he was not the driver of the car, as revealed later in the storyline. It was actually somebody else. The Citizen, now, here's the thing about the storyline. The storyline itself actually gets interrupted, believe it or not, 3 issues in. At the end of the second part, Superman shows up. Yep, Superman. Now, the last time Superman showed up in a Green Arrow comic book, now prior to this, now he did show up during the Hard Sheltered Hero arc, but this is the first time in this book that he showed up since then. But prior to, I think, like the last time Superman showed up in this book that I could think of, let me think here. I don't think he showed up during Winnick's run. No. I think the last time he showed up prior to show up in Hard Sheltered Hero that I can think of, that Superman himself showed up, was probably when Kevin Smith wrote the book back in the early 2000s. That was the last time I can think of that Superman appeared in Green Arrow of all books. And what was the purpose of being there? Basically, he was told offhand what happened to Rear Harper page of Heroes in Crisis, which I technically are this issue already in the Heroes in Crisis and other stories. Basically, this is one of the stories they collect in there, along with the last couple issues of this particular volume of Green Arrow. It's a well-told issue, and not much else. I don't have much anything new to say about issue 45. It's just that it's the best issue of the Benson's run of the book. And then right after that, then we get back to the Citizen, and eventually, after it takes a little while, a couple issues later, he's captured, and he's put in jail for what he did. Yeah, for torturing people, and also here's the thing: Kate Spencer is still in the book, which that's cool. She's still here, and she's still Green Arrow. She's still Oliver Queen's lawyer. Yep, she's basically even hired on this legal staff. He got his company back, which is awesome. Then he says, yeah, Mr. Near bankrupt because all the lawsuits involving the Q computer things that apparently crashed because of the stuff happening to Justice. I'm glad the fact they referenced that, because that clearly happened, and apparently a lot of his hardware was affected, and facing a lot of lawsuits. Now, I would think that technically, because that was Waller do it, maybe the U.S. government helped pay for it, but nope, you have to sue Oliver Queen because he's the one who made the damn things. But he did not create them just for that to happen. But this story overall is really good. Give this book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. Damn good book. Kind of wish the Bensons would have stayed, because they clearly have a plan for this character. They really did. I think their brief run they had was really good. And here's a shocker, though. There is one trade left. And I think this book collects the rest of this run, which is not many issues left, because this trade does not collect issues 39 to 42, probably because they want to save it for later for the final trade of the run, which I kind of think that was kind of dumb. They skipped over the issues, but basically because it's written by the writers who basically came back to the book right after the Bensons left. That's probably the reason why I threw those issues in, and they probably threw in issues 40 and 42 just to finish the whole run itself. Alright, next up it is Black Panther, Shuri. The Deadliest of the Species. This collects the first 6 issues of Black Panther Volume 5. Yes, Volume 5. The previous writer of the run, Reginald Holland, comes back to the book after he briefly left. Yes, he wrote almost the entirety of the previous volume for the series, except for the last 6 issues because Jim Palmione took over for the stuff related to Secret Invasion. But he's back here. And the storyline is simply this. That we have Storm, who at this point is still married to Black Panther. This is a few years before AVX, where they decided to end their marriage. I think that was still a stupid idea that probably Marvel would do, because this was a great marriage. These two clearly love each other, and a lot of readers, from what I can tell, had no problem with this marriage at all. It was probably one time basically where we have a couple get married, and it was perfectly acceptable. You have Storm riding back to Wakanda. Everyone's of course happy to see her, and then of course Black Panther's plane comes down, crashes, and he's in a coma. And also, we also have return of Moreland. Yep, Moreland's back in here. This is, of course, before he returned in the storyline Spider-Verse. Yeah, this is well before his return there. And he's back here to face off against Black Panther. Now, you probably think, okay, Black Panther is alive, but he's in a coma. Who takes over for him? Is it Storm? No. Storm points out, though, she's the ruler of Wakanda, but she's not the Black Panther. That probably has to go through some trial, because legally she is, but she can't legally assume the title of Black Panther, probably because she's not trained for it. So, and she points Shuri, who, it's obvious enough she's the most obvious choice to become the Black Panther, mainly because she's T'Challa's sister. And so, she, during the course of issues, basically goes through a trial, and she fails. Yep, she fails. But she puts in the costume anyways, fights Moreland and win, and despite the fact she was deemed sort of unworthy of being Black Panther, but in the eyes of people, she's definitely accepted. And that's all I gotta say about it. So, also, in case you wonder what happened with Black Panther prior to this, well, first he had a couple meetings. First with Namor, they do have editors known here of what happened in the previous line for the series. We met him during the Civil War 1 tie-in, where they form an alliance. And of course you have him getting into a fight with Doc Doom, which he loses. Yes, this is Reginald Holland teasing Doom War, which comes not long after this. Storyline is really good. Good start for this particular run, despite the fact this run ends 6 issues after this one does. Yeah, this is a really short run for this book. Only 12 issues. This book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. Yeah, surprisingly though, this book ends issue 12, but then was continued as a Doom War miniseries, and after that we had Black Panther, the most deadliest man alive. Well, first it was Man Without Fear, and then it was renamed to Most Deadliest Man Alive, thanks to, of course, Daredevil coming back, because he took over that series numbering from Daredevil. But that series numbering is actually counted as part of the Black Panther numbering. And after that series ended, Black Panther didn't have a comic book for 5 years. Until the current writer who's going to be leaving the book brought the book back in 2016, and he's had a book since then. Though despite him leaving, the book is not ending. They have not announced who's replacing him yet, though they have announced who's replacing Ian Slott, some TV writer, I don't remember his name. But Reginald Holland, yeah, he took over from Christopher Freeze, in case you're wondering. Oh yeah, and the artwork in here is done by Ken Lashley. Yeah, I gotta love this interior artwork by Ken Lashley. It's really good. Yeah, Ken Lashley is a sort of a Marvel regular because he's drawn some comic books from Marvel. He's drawn like Ken the X-Men, but there's others basically. But he's always going to be a very good artist. He's a lot better than Greg Land. He's not an artist that tends to be talked about very much. No, not really. He's not exactly a big name like Land or John Romita Jr., but he is a damn good artist. I kind of wish Marvel could keep him work, because a lot of the time when he's given work, that doesn't usually last very long for him on a particular book. Even I think of one writer that gave him like a lot of work is Mark Bagley. Yes. Surprisingly, I don't think he's been on any book lately that I can think of. No, I have to look it up later, but yeah. Reginald Holland, in case you don't know who this guy is, The guy was basically, he was the writer of this book, and he adapted the first run of the previous line, which was Who is Black Panther, for a motion comic that aired on a channel that he was actually made the director of. Yes. I think it was the BCE, I think it was. Yeah, it's basically a channel for people who are black. And he when he became director of that particular channel, he adapted his own work into a motion comic that was kind of a loose animated series. Didn't change much anything, just made it a motion comic. Did I say it was motion comic later? I thought it was quite cool he did that. It's surprising, though, he only did just the first arc. He never did any other arc related to his run. He never did the arc that came right after that, which was the crossover with the X-Men. Yeah, surprisingly, he never did that one. But it's shocking, though, he came back to this book, and then as soon as Doom War wrapped up, he left. Came back to just one thing, and that's it. Yeah, and this trade here, I should point out, though, I got this from Barnes & Noble, and it's kind of, well, this had happened with the book, and I just bought this thing a couple days ago, and it's like this. Yeah. This trade, in case you wonder when it came out, this came out roughly 2 years ago. Yeah. 2 years ago when this trade came out. Yeah, I'm not really sure why that Barnes Noble had their trade basically in this condition. I mean, the rest of the pages are fine. Yeah, it's just the opening page and like a couple of pages were kind of stuck together. But this all in all was really good. Now, in case you wonder who does this cover art here, it is J. Scott Campbell who does this cover art. Yep. J. Scott Campbell does the art with Edgar DeGuido. Yes. Now, I know that J. Scott Campbell, he was let go from Marvel a few years ago. Almost about 5 years ago. Because some cover he was asked to do. And he got flack for it. And here's the thing. Marvel let him go for doing something they asked him to do. So, Marvel should not let him go. And yet they did. And he moved over to DC. I think he did some covers for... I did hear he did do some covers for Harley Quinn, but that's it. Would I ever get any more Black Panther trades? Yes, definitely. And this run was like very brief. It's not like we had sort of this thing with Black Panther comics in the last like 20 years, where first we had the awesome Christopher Priest one, which I think started back in 1989, that ended after 60 issues, and then like 1 year later, 1 year later we had the original Holland run, which ran for about 3 years. Yeah, a little over 3 years, and then was relaunched again for this, and this lasted for a year, and then it was continuous Doom War, and after Doom War, then it was the ongoing series that the Man Without Fear / Most Dangerous Man Alive. Once that ended roughly, if you look at it, roughly about 13 years of Black Panther comic books. Yes, because Marvel gave Black Panther a good push. Though they kind of relegated to be like a reoccurring character in other books, most popular in Avengers, until eventually got his own book again, which I thought was really good the fact they did that. But yeah, not much else to say about these two trades. They're both really good. And also at the end of this trade, Black Panther comes out of his coma. So he's not there. He's not in the coma for very long. But Shuri herself, in case you're curious though, how long does she stay the Black Panther? She stays the Black Panther up until 2016, believe it or not. Yep, she technically becomes the ruler of Wakanda. Yeah, she became the ruler in 2012. And she remained the ruler for a long time. Until prior to Secret Wars, she handed her position back to T'Challa, it was some kind of knife exchange ceremony that allowed him to restore as the proper ruler of the country, despite being also the ruler of the dead. And in the case of her, she still wore the Black Panther costume, but she stopped wearing it with the current writers run. Yeah, she basically was put in amber. This, of course, happened right after the Secret Wars. Then, pretty much, as soon as she came out, she started wearing an outfit that she wore in her brief solo book. Yes, Shuri had a solo book. And here's the thing, after this run ended, like after Doom War concluded, like Black Panther was off of New York, so what did they do with Shuri? They gave her a miniseries called Claws of a Killer, which is a miniseries specifically for her. And that was the only thing they did with Shuri after this run ended, which is that one miniseries. When T'Challa got himself another book, she just got herself a quick little miniseries, and that was it. She basically also occasionally appeared in our comic books, like she gets our issue of Daredevil. Yes, frickin' Daredevil of all things. As part of a Time for Original Sin, which anybody who reads it can understand that. Well, the way she was written that book was not very well nice, and I think Mark Waid had never written Black Panther before, so he's doing the best he could with it. Yeah, so not much else to say about these two. Not much else to say here. So yeah, so that's it for Sigil Review, and stay tuned for my review for One Piece. Probably about less than an hour, along with Fire Force and Case Closed, and then I'll go back to One Piece. Okay, here's the video. Bye.